Because it goes back to, I think it goes back to the question, why does God appear in Theophanies? Why does he appear
Right.
in the Old Testament the way he does? And
Right.
in what way? Obviously, he's appearing in a way that is he's not appearing in his full sense of God as God. We're kind of getting into some tricky language here, like what's
Right.
like what substance is God made out of? And obviously he didn't appear in that way.
Right.
He's a like, and so that goes back to the question, why does he appear like that? And maybe we'll get to that later. I don't want to derail where you want to go with this.
No, let's go to there. Let's actually go there right now. We can look at some other examples and then go kind of look at that right now. Why would he appear in a bush? Why would he appear in a cloud? Why would he appear in a whisper? And why would he appear in fire? Why are these things important? And so the second one that I kind of thought was interesting is also in Exodus as well. Exodus 19:9. And you can kind of read this yourself. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Should be here forever. But God says, I'll descend on the mountain like a dense cloud. So he descends on the mountain. And then follow verses, it says that the people will hear you speak to me, and then they'll always put their trust in you. And so if we can just imagine a dense cloud coming over this mountain, and then God speaking from this cloud to Moses. And so that's another theophany, right? God in this cloud. And as I was thinking about this one, I was thinking, like mountaintops and mountains, more specifically, especially in the Old Testament, have this typification of like reigning authority. Like for instance, Moses gets the tablets on the mountain, right? Like, and I think that's a good example of this typology of mountains having a sense of authority over everything. So the fact that dense clouds on top of a mountain shows God's authority, shows his authority not only over Israel, but over all of the nations, that he is the one true God. So I think there's a lot in this idea of coming in a cloud on top of a mountain, or on this mountain. I think there's a lot to be kind of said of how he appears, right? He's showing his authority to not just his people, but to all the nations.
That's interesting.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. I thought that was really interesting. And then likewise with the burning bush, I mean, Moses, I mean, we maybe don't know the story that well, but Moses kind of is a little timid to go, right? He doesn't really want to go, right? And so the fact, like, I mean, a dense cloud, God speaking from that, like, obviously that'd be a theophany. But then this idea of a burning bush that's not being consumed, I mean, it shows God's power, but also shows God is able to do all these miracles that you are going to go do, Moses. So it almost gives us a sense of assurance of how. And so I think, and that's what Israel, I mean, that's what Moses needed. And Israel needed someone to be their God, their king, right? They needed someone to rule them. And so I think how God appears is important. I think it shows the people who he's appearing to a different side and a character of himself.
The source that I had in he pointed out, it was very interesting. He says that the Old Testament regards its own theophanies in terms of the idea of sacrament, and so he explains that. He says the presence of the absence. So the theophanies are to be understood in this sense, and he says none, like the theophanies, none of them are a total revelation of God himself. And he says that God was indeed present at Mount Sinai. He did indeed appear to Moses, but always in terms of A, a sign, and B, through the sound of his word. I think that's a really interesting definition of theophany, is that like this sacramental definition of the presence of the absence. And if you think about it, like I'll put it in this way, like say like the Lord's Supper is a sacrament because it's the presence of the absent Christ. He is there with us in our midst in the supper, but he's at the right hand of God. So in that sense, like it's paradoxical, and so theophany is paradoxical in that sense, where God is present, but he's also absent, and so he gives a sign, but the sign is not separated from the word, like burning the burning bush. There's the sign of the burning bush, but it's not separated from what God says in the burning bush. Or on the mountain of Sinai, there's the cloud, there's the thunder. I don't know if that's here,
right?
But there's the cloud, and then there's the word.
Right. Yeah. Or like when Israel is fleeing from Egypt, and there's like the fire that stops like Egyptians from getting to them. You know what I'm talking about? When they're crossing the Red Sea.
Yep.
I think that's there too. I think that would be a theophany as well. But yes, it's. I like that definition. It's not the person isn't absent, but they're not, like God isn't absent, but he's not fully.
Right. The presence.
Is that what you're trying to say? Like
the presence of the absence. Right. So he's there, but he's not. But he's absent. Like it's paradoxical. It's two things that we're trying to reconcile, and they like. We were hoping that this was going to be an easy conversation, but of course I have to take it down this road. It's
of course, yeah.
It's like God is. It's an appearance of God where he's present with his people, but he's also absent.
Right. No, because, and I think I like that.
Well, and why does he have to appear as a like in a theophany? Why does he have to appear like that?
Well, I think it's for human benefit.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have to appear like that, but it's definitely for, I think in each scenario, it kind of spurs his people on. And like, I think a really good example of that is Elijah. In 1 Kings 19, some of us might know the story from Sunday school, and we probably do, but you know, there's a storm that comes, a great powerful wind that tore the mountain apart and shattered rocks before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind, right? After the wind, there's an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake came fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. When Elijah heard, and after the fire came a whisper. And as we know, the Lord is in the whisper. And that's 1 Kings 19. If we think about the story of Elijah right there, he's running for his life. He doesn't need something that's going to scare him to death. You know, like he needs God to come in a whisper, something gentle, something that'll assure him, comfort him, right? And so I think, and that's a theophany as well, right? God coming in a whisper is a theophany. And just how Elijah reacts, he puts a cloak over his face, and he stands and he listens. And so I think how God appears in what theophany and how what medium I guess he uses, I think it's only for the person he's appearing to show him a different part of his character that they need to know right then and there.